Brought to you by JEGS.
One of the problems under my Buick here is the fuel tank. When I picked it up from the transport depot, didn't want to go, worked out didn't have any fuel because it had been dripping out this corner here. Now it looks like somebody's already had a go at it. Looking at the repair that's been done here. Has been soldered at some stage, so it's been a half-hearted attempt at a proper repair. The repair on the other section here where the pickup hose goes, that is sort of some sort of epoxy type setup. It does seem fairly hard. What we're going to do is do it right. Fuel tank's no different to most rust. 90% of it's going to be from the inside coming out. A bit of vapour builds up in there, or a car that's sitting like this one had for 20 odd years with basically no fuel in it, gets a bit of moisture in there, lays in the bottom, so it's going to be corroded up on these lower edges. But we're going to take the tank out and take it across to Trent at Natrad Malaga, and he's going to fix it up for us. Going by the galv washer, or the zinc washer that's on there, it has been pulled out in the not too distant past. Just a pity they didn't do it right the first time. Knew there was no fuel in it, it's all over me floor. Right, now that that's out of there, I'm not real keen on welding a fuel tank myself. I think there's people that can do it and do it well. It's a job for the professionals. So what I'm going to do is take it round to Trent at Natrad Malaga, one of our sponsors. Not only does radiators, but does fuel tanks as well. So we'll get those leaks welded up properly, and then we're going to treat the tank so we don't have to worry about ever doing this again. Most radiator shops do fuel tanks as well. It's not quite that widely known, but we want to repair this properly. As we've shown you, when it came out of the car, it has had some sort of resin put on there or something. We could use, I know Steve a couple of weeks ago showed us the steering wheel repair using the KBS new metal. We could use that in this situation, because what we are going to do is recoat the tank. You can't use this sort of thing if you're not going to coat the inside, because that is not totally impervious to the solvents, fuels, alcohol, additives, that sort of thing. But because we're going to put this kit through it, which is actually a fuel tank repair kit, it's one that KBS put out, and it's designed specifically for doing fuel tanks. Diesel, petrol, even race car tanks that are using alcohol, that sort of thing is quite fine. It's a three-step process where we start off with an AquaKlean. This one here, what we've got to do is we're going to mix it 1-to-1 with water. Hot water will actually make the process work a lot better, give the tank a good rinse out. Then we've got to go through dry it. That'll also degas the tank. Now we're going to weld this fuel tank up. We're using a flame. Now you might not like that near a fuel tank. It's not going to be a problem, because we're going to show you a couple of little tricks along the way. Trent is anyway. But that there will actually clean it out and it'll degas it. It's a high strength cleaner. Then we're going to pressure clean it, then we'll do the repair. Once we've done that, we're going to redo that clean, because where the welding's been done, you're going to get a bit of oxidation and so forth inside, so we've got to get rid of that. So another rinse through with this one. Right, we're going to use the RustBlast next. Now that will actually go through and it'll etch the inside of the tank for the coating, but this will be done once it's been repaired. So that'll put a phosphorus coating on there. Again, we've got to let it thoroughly dry. That'll get right into all the cracks and anywhere where it might be. And then the magic compound is the coating itself, the gold that goes in there. We actually put that in there. The whole lot, we're going to pour it all through the tank. We're going to show you how we go about working it. So that one there will seal up any little pinholes, but these are a bit bigger than pinholes, so we've got to go through and fix them properly. The most important part is sitting in the bottom of the box, which should be in the top, is the instructions. Do read the instructions, because you've got to follow this down to a T to make this a permanent coating, a permanent repair on the fuel tank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Trent, who's now going to get the fuel tank itself and start the cleaning process, because he's the one that's got to weld it. He's got to make sure he does all that side of things and gets it all done properly.
Okay, stage one is having a bit of an inspection of the tank, and we found there's been some quite nasty old repairs here, as you can see just in the front there. Someone's, I don't know if there's solder under there or whether it's just an araldite type fix, but initially we'll have to degas the tank. Once that's done, that we use the stage one of the kit to be able to do that. Once it's safe to use, we can then get this crap basically off all of the top of the tank, have a look how bad a repair it's going to need, get our solder work done, and then we'll do an initial pressure test and make sure we're happy with the repairs we've done, and then we can proceed with part two and part three of the kit. Some of the main spots that we find do fail, especially on the older tanks. Repairs around here that are slight damage or slight rust aren't too bad to repair, but the main headaches we get, we can do some quite hefty repairs on older tanks, and then upon pressure testing we find that the inner seam is leaking along the weld line around the edge, and in the past we've not been able to do anything with that. We've had to waste that time and throw that tank away. Now that the kits like this are around, we can do those initial repairs, and then at a later date, if we find that we've got any seam leaks, after cleaning it and using the kit, we can make sure that that'll actually seal right along that inside edge, and then we'll pressure test it again afterward just to give us 100% surety. This tank doesn't actually look too bad. It's a little bit of pitting on the inside, but nothing that the kit won't catch up after a repair and a clean. We could be on a winner. Okay, what we've got here is just a little blanking plate, just to save us from spilling all of our cleaner, so we can give it a good slosh around. We may leave this, depending on the state of the tank and how dirty it is when we start to take it apart, take the cleaner out, we may need to do the cleaning stage twice. And so we can't leave any of the original senders in. This will, the solvents and so forth in the cleaner will affect them. So just to be sure, we'll do it this way. At this stage we can use the original cap. The solvent won't hurt that, but just to be sure we can put a little bit of glad wrap or a bit of rubber over the outside of that just to protect it. But certainly at after the cleaning stages, at stage 2 and 3, we'll certainly want to make sure that when we put that cap on, we'll put some glad wrap under it just to stop the actual product adhering to the rubber and leaving us a good seal on our tank. What we've done on the rear of the tank, where the pickup and the breather go, we've just looped the piece of rubber hose through there just to make sure we get the link through it. It can wash each end out, and we have already had a look inside this tank to make sure there isn't a filter in line. Sometimes there is a filter on the bottom side of the pickup, and just to make sure, because they do get blocked up with age, and the actual product may help stuff that filter up. So we'll punch a hole in it if there was a filter, but in this case there's none, so we can continue on. What we'll do now is just show you how we're going to use that stage 1 and clean the tank up, and then we can show you the repairs that we're going to do. Okay, what we've done is we've only mixed half the solution, so if we're not 100% happy with the cleanliness of the inside of the tank, we do have another half there, so we can give it another belt. We've got the product in, we'll give it a good swish around. We can actually hear this loosening up lots of the little particles of the loose scale. Hear the amount of stuff that's peeling off.
Yeah, you can. Heaps.
Okay, that should be enough for an initial twist up. We'll leave that now for about 5 minutes, and we'll give it another roll, and probably do that 3 more times over the next 20 minutes, and that should give us a good indication of how good a condition she is. Okay, another 5 minutes, and we'll pour the residue out into the bucket, and we'll see how much of the fuel tank we've got left. Okay, we've actually left the tank for about 20-25 minutes now, and in the meantime we've turned and sloshed it around about 4 or 5 times. So we'll pour this out and see what we get out of him. Just grab that side, mate, and we'll try and get most of it out of this one. Have to get right up. So. See how thick the residue is on the bottom there? A lot of mud, and I guess there'd be if we were to strain that, there'd be a lot of little bits of metal flake. Yeah, just get 5 litres in there, and then we'll give it a roll and rinse again. All right, up this time. Up we go. All right, good enough to weld. What we've done is we've got the majority of the product out, as you can see. I can still see there's a fair bit of residue and crap in the tank still, but we've found enough, got it clean enough now that we can do our initial solder repairs. And once we're happy with that, we're going to use the other half of the cleaning product to give it that final rinse and clean before stage 3. So we'll take it over to the clamp now and see if we can't get Noel the magician to fix the holes up for us. Beautiful. This one. I've got, I don't know if you can see that there, but you can see actually a couple of nice little splits where it's actually been, looks like it's been rubbing on something externally. Someone's given it a hammer in and just caked over it. That's nothing too drastic. Over this side it's had quite a nice little dent up in here. That's usually quite straight and just flared there, ready for the pickup. And at some point it's just cracked around the solder joint of the pickup. So now what we'll do is we'll actually get your silver solder that, Noel, or you want to bronze it? Noel will probably put some bronze through these 2 little splits through there, and the same through here. We'll bronze all the cracks and the splits in this area, and then just to make sure that we're happy with it, we'll give the whole area that we've repaired over a tin up with soft solder and flux, and that gives it the final coating and actually fills up any little porous holes that you get through bronze and silver solder, and fills them up. So it's a lot better way to go. So we'll do that now. See if you can't, when you're happy with that, tin all that area, and those 2 little dents in there. Looks like that one there's, and then tin that area, and then I'll hold it up and we'll do the sender. Okay, what Noel's doing at the moment now is using his flux, which a lot of people sort of know as your old style baker's fluid, and your soft solder. As I said, that's giving the bronzed area. And anywhere else in it, we're not sure that there's any imperfections or imperforations. Gives that a nice coating, and that soft solder is easy to use, so it fills the holes. As you can see now, he's applying a bit of heat. The flux helps clean that area before you start to apply the solder. When you're doing something like this, you need to be in a well-ventilated area. In a radiator shop, we're set up quite well for that. We've got quite big extraction fans that take away the fumes as you're doing it. And as you can see there, once the area is nice and clean, it actually tins up quite easily. If this tank was really old and we wanted to make sure 200% and we thought it was got imperforations or external rust, we could actually tin the whole outside of this tank. It would take quite a bit of time, and in this sort of aged tank, we don't need to do that. So we'll just do the areas that are in need of repair. Usually when we do fuel tank repairs, if we're not using the kit that Murray showed earlier, we would actually use dry ice to defume this tank and make it safe to work on. Whereas luckily the cleaner part of this kit has already defumed the tank for us and makes it quite easy. As you can see there, we're at a stage where all of those welds now have been covered over with the soft solder. All through that area and around there, and around here. I'll just stand the tank up on its end now, and I was just going to tin and re-sweat that one pickup line back in, and then we'll flip the tank over, because while we've got it here, we might as well quickly resolder the breather inlet and the filler inlet, just to make sure while we've got it out the car, and then we know we're 100%. So yeah, there's actually no problems in that area there. You can see when Noel's heated and scraped that solder out, it was very clean and tidy, which is the main thing with solder work. As long as it's clean, it'll be strong. So rather than brush out the whole side of that connection, he'll do half at a time so we don't modify the angle. Nothing worse than going to put it back in the car and finding it's a little bit out. We use the flux brushes for two purposes. Initially was the cleaning side of things, but then secondary, as he's applied the solder, just to make the job a little bit quicker, he'll actually use it as a cooling device. Beautiful. I don't know if you can quite see it on the film, but the main strength and the main seal in this repair is under that nut where the little collar enters the tank. That's Noel's main concern, is to make sure that that initial sweat is strong. That's where the seal is, and the extra solder is just putting on the edge there to build it up to the nut, is just for a little bit of strength. You happy? Okay. Yeah, you can see the initial repair along that line. He's done his bronze, he's tinned over that, fixed a couple of dents and little splits and bronzed over that area, and he's tinned and cleaned and sweated the solder in, and then given that, because it's quite a large nut, it's only it's the pickup, so we don't want to have the bottom of the tank crack there. Every fitting in and out of the tank's been soldered, so now we're ready for a pressure test.
This side's right.
Is it?
Yep.
Just do the back end. Oh yeah. That hose on now, because what we're going to do is, now that we've pressure tested it, repairs are done, we're going to take it over and give the outside a good pressure clean. We're going to re-clean the inside of the tank with the part one of our mixture, with the other half that we've got left. And as long as we're happy with the cleanliness inside, then this is ready for a good internal and external dry out, and ready for the next part of the kit. Certainly a lot cleaner than the first round, but there was still a lot of brown deposits and a few bits of scale you can see come out. So this last final water flush should clean that up. And you want to give it a bit of a dry up. Okay, we've now finished our part, Murray. It's up to you to take it home and do the final parts of the system by who's it by? KBS.
Thanks to Trent and Noel for doing the repairs on the tank itself. We knew it was a little bit grotty inside, but that surprised me when I looked inside that bucket and saw what came out of here. But now the repairs are all done. It's a waste of time doing those repairs if you don't follow it up with some sort of coating, because the corrosion is only going to come back. That side of it's all done, that's looked after. Now, pretty critical to make sure you get this next stage done the same day. We've been through, we've force dried it, we've added some heat, blown it through and blown it through. That took an hour or so to do that with forced heat. But you want to make sure you get that pretty well dry inside. But before you leave it, if you want to leave this until tomorrow, the next day, the day after, it's not real critical as long as you get the rust blast done. Now this here is the pre-paint prep, as they call it. Puts a phosphorus coating onto the inside of the tank itself so that the final coating will stick. And not only does that, it actually etches into the metal itself that's there, and it does provide a bit of protection against surface rust reappearing rapidly, because as you saw, we rinsed all this out in water. We don't want rust to come back, even though the product that we're going to put in here is actually going to be just a final coating that's going to totally encase the inside, and it's a permanent coating. It's a permanent finish that we're putting on there. So next step, got to put this one inside, but first of all, gloves are on, glasses are on. Open him up, and we do use the whole litre. You don't dilute it. The tank's all dry inside, so that's all that's going to go in there. Now, another important part about this rust blast itself is you can't let it dry on the surface. So when we're cleaning the tank, You could leave it stand for 5 minutes, 15 minutes. It wasn't real critical as long as you kept it moving and kept flushing it around to slosh it around to make sure it was really activated. Now that's all in there. With this one here, it's similar. We've still got to do the same thing, but we've got to make sure on a day like today, which is fairly mild in Perth, I think they said it was around about 22 degrees, we've got to make sure that we keep this tank moving. So we start rolling them over, get into especially those edges. They're the bits that are real critical, and then rolling them over. Getting it everywhere. Now, I can actually, even though this is sealed, I can actually smell that sort of slight acidic sort of thing about it, and that's what really does provide that etch in there, into that metal surface. Now, if you're going to use this on a fiberglass tank, you've got to speak to the manufacturers first, because there's a little bit more work involved. I don't want to go into that, so we'll just continue with this one and keep on going. Now that I think will have a pretty good coating pretty well everywhere. So we're just going to leave that sit for a bit, because that acid that's in this coating will actually bite into that metal, provide that key that we need to get the final coat happening. So we're going to leave this stand for, I don't know, probably 5 minutes, shake it all up again, bit more agitation, and keep that happening for at least 20 minutes, preferably half an hour, but no more than an hour. Yeah. Okay, leave that sit for a bit, back in 5. Okay, 5's gone by. Time to give it another shake and a slosh. Well coated. We want it everywhere because, like I say, we don't want it to dry on that surface. Okay, 5's gone by again. So give him another rotate. Getting him in all those corners. I'm really concerned about getting it into that area that has been repaired. Good time to have another look, just to make sure that with putting this acid or this coating on now, that it doesn't release any other little bits that might have almost got out the first time, that sort of thing. The only leaks we got here is where we put that temporary plate over the sender unit. Like I say, the hose is just sitting there, it's not actually clamped up, so there's a little bit of a dribble there, but otherwise, top job, Noel. All right, another 5 minutes, then we'll empty that lot out, and we've got to really make sure we flush it with water, because we want to get all of that coating residue out of there. Otherwise, it will continue to bite in. Then we'll give it a bit of a dry off. But what we're going to do with this one, because that has to be absolutely perfectly 110% dry before we put the sealer in, we're going to do a bit of force drying, but then we're also going to leave it sit overnight so that we can actually do the coating itself tomorrow. So I'll go and give this another wash out, and we'll come back and put the coating in itself tomorrow morning.
Brought to you by JEGS. Lifetime support. Complete customer satisfaction. Delivering performance since 1960. JEGS.com.